If scrolling is relaxing, why do you feel worse afterward? You don't open your phone to feel anxious or scattered. You open it to relax and unwind. But when you put it down, your mind feels foggy and a low level of unease creeps in. What if what's draining you isn't the time you spend scrolling, but the emotional work your mind is forced to do without you even realizing it? In this video, we're going to break down the hidden psychology of scroll fatigue and why scrolling drains you more than you realize. And we'll show you how to reclaim your energy without quitting your phone. There's a specific kind of tired modern life has created. A tiredness that doesn't come from doing, but from absorbing. You're not running miles or working out, and you're not doing hard physical labor. You're not having deep, heavy conversations or making difficult decisions. You're just scrolling, a thumb movement so small it's barely noticeable. And yet by the end of the day you may feel heavy, unfocused, and strangely hollow. Like your mind has been running in the background all day without rest. Most people assume this is just too much screen time or a social media addiction. But here's why that oversimplification makes it harder to solve. When you scroll, your brain isn't just passively consuming information, it's actively interpreting every single post. In milliseconds, your mind asks questions like, am I doing better or worse than this person? Is this something I should care about? Should I feel inspired, anxious, angry, jealous? Does this affect my life? These are small, fast, and constant micro-emotional evaluations. In a 30-minute scroll session, you might process hundreds of emotionally activating inputs. Your brain just simply can't turn that process off. To put this in perspective, your great-grandparents might have had 5 emotionally charged interactions in an entire week, while you may be having hundreds before breakfast. No wonder you feel tired and depleted. Your brain utilizes emotional energy to regulate feelings, and it's not infinite. It's a finite resource like a battery. Every time content triggers comparison, outrage, envy, or even inspiration, your brain must use emotional energy to process and regulate that feeling. This can be referred to as emotional metabolism, and scrolling burns through your emotional energy faster than almost any other daily activity because it's rapid, unpredictable, emotionally dense, and never-ending. Your brain must constantly evaluate, categorize, compare it to your life, and then decide whether something is relevant, safe, or important. This processing system is really designed to handle maybe 50 emotional inputs per day. Scrolling, however, forces it to handle 10 times that in a single session. So, when you close the app, you haven't rested. You've just run an emotional marathon while sitting on your couch. That's why your nervous system feels overstimulated. That's why you feel mentally tired without knowing why. You're not imagining it. You're emotionally overworked. Now here's where most people get stuck. Even when they understand this, they still can't stop scrolling. When they try to fix it, they either quit cold turkey by deleting apps, or they set strict screen time limits and promise themselves just 10 minutes a day. It may work briefly, but soon they're right back to it, often scrolling even more than before. And the reason isn't what you might think. This isn't a discipline problem, and it's not because they're addicted to scrolling itself. What's really happening is that they're likely avoiding the feeling that shows up when they stop scrolling. Here's what I mean. When you finally put your phone down, what do you notice? Boredom, restlessness, anxiety about something you've been avoiding, or maybe just the silence accompanied by a kind of emotional emptiness. That feeling, that's your brain trying to return to its natural state. But because you've been in constant stimulation mode, the contrast can temporarily feel empty and unsettling. Stopping scrolling may lead to a dopamine displacement effect. This reflects how the brain, when repeatedly overstimulated by the high dopamine rewards of social media, becomes less sensitive to natural, everyday pleasures, effectively displacing motivation for real-world activities. Essentially, each notification, such as a like, comment, or new piece of content, acts as a small reward, triggering a release of dopamine. Chronic overstimulation causes the brain to adapt, resulting in a need for more and more stimulation to achieve the same level of pleasure it once felt. When not engaged in social media, the brain is left in a deficit state, below its natural baseline. This creates discomfort and drives users back to the platforms to seek relief and another hit of dopamine, perpetuating a cycle of withdrawal and dependence. Activities that provide more consistent but low-intensity dopamine release like exercise, reading, genuine social interactions, or hobbies are displaced because they can no longer compete with the instant gratification experienced with social media. This is why willpower alone rarely works. You're not fighting the urge to scroll. You're fighting the discomfort of not scrolling, and that's a completely different battle. Now, here's the good news. The key isn't to eliminate scrolling immediately. You don't need a detox. You don't need strict digital rules. Scrolling isn't the enemy. Your phone isn't the problem. And you're not broken. You simply need to work with your brain instead of against it. Here are 3 emotionally intelligent techniques that restore choice and energy. Technique number 1, the 2-minute bridge. When you feel the urge to scroll, don't fight it. Instead, set a timer for 2 minutes and do something else first. Something that requires just slightly more effort than scrolling but isn't overwhelming. Make a cup of tea. Stretch. Gaze out your window. Pet your dog or cat. The key is that it must be 2 minutes and mildly engaging. This creates a bridge between urge and action. You're not denying yourself, you're just delaying. Neurologically, urges tend to peak and fade within about 90 seconds to 2 minutes. If you can ride out that transition, the craving to scroll may often soften on its own. Even if you scroll afterward, something important has changed. You've broken the automatic loop. You've reintroduced choice where there was only compulsion. Technique number 2, the emotional audit. Before you close an app, pause for 10 seconds and ask these 3 questions. How do I feel now compared to when I opened this app? Did I come here for a specific reason, or was I avoiding something? What do I actually need right now? Don't judge the answers, just notice them. This is emotional intelligence in action. Most people scroll unconsciously. They open the app and then later close the app without having any idea what just happened emotionally. This audit breaks that unconscious loop. Over time, your brain starts to learn that scrolling doesn't actually meet the need you think it does. Patterns will emerge like, I always scroll when I'm avoiding work, or I scroll when I'm lonely, but I feel lonelier after. That awareness alone begins to shift behavior, not through willpower, but through clarity. Technique number 3, the replacement protocol. Your brain doesn't just crave dopamine, it craves completion. Scrolling keeps emotional loops open. That's why it never feels satisfying. It's also the reason scrolling doesn't feel restful. Rest requires slowness and closure. Scrolling offers speed and endlessness. Your mind never completes a cycle. There's no emotional exhale, no resolution, no pause. So, here's what I suggest you do. Create a list of 5 activities that provide genuine completion in under 10 minutes. For example, a brief guided meditation, light exercise, reading a few pages of a physical book, making a cup of coffee or other beverage, and doing nothing else while you enjoy it. When the urge to scroll hits, pick one, complete it. Notice how you feel. These actions close the loop. You're teaching your brain that satisfaction doesn't only live inside your phone. But there's one mistake that quietly undoes any progress, and that's when you beat yourself up with shame. For example, thinking, I have no self-control, I'm so weak, why can't I just stop? Shame is the biggest barrier to change since it activates stress, and stress drains your emotional energy even faster, making scrolling more tempting. Instead, treat scrolling as data, not failure. Every time you scroll, you're learning something about your emotional patterns. such as, I scrolled because I was anxious about that conversation. I scrolled because I was bored. I scrolled because I was avoiding a decision. That's not a weakness. That's information. And information is power. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is self-awareness and building your emotional intelligence so you can make conscious choices instead of running on autopilot. Today, try just one thing. The next time you feel the urge to scroll, use the 2-minute bridge once. Don't try to change everything, just try this once and notice what happens. Start your journey to reclaim your focus, attention, and emotional energy. If you'd like to keep exploring your own EI in this modern world, consider subscribing to the EI Code. We don't just decode behavior, we decode the emotions behind it so you can live your best life with greater awareness, depth, and peace. That's emotional intelligence, and it starts with you. If you want to go deeper or apply this in your own life, I've linked a few helpful resources related to this topic in the description below. And there's another video on your screen that looks at a different emotional challenge shaped by our digital world.